This is the Dover Download Podcast. My name is Christopher Parker, and for the past 25 years, I've had the pleasure of working with, learning from, and talking to a variety of volunteer, staff, and community members. This podcast explores conversations, activities, and a variety of policies and programs which exist here in Dover to improve the community in one way or another. Not surprisingly, the number one listened episodes here on the Dover Download Podcast deal with the waterfront. So now that we're in sweeps weeks, we thought we would bring back Rob Simmons, the Director of Development for Cathartis, and Jamie Stevens, the city's project manager for the Waterfront project, and discuss where we're at mid-year in the project. Rob, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to start with you and go through where you're at with your development. We're about 2 years into the project, and from the layman term of just standing back and looking at it, it's come a long way.
Agreed. We have had a very busy and snowy winter for sure. The snowiness didn't really help with progress, but we made progress nonetheless. If you've been by the site or walked past it, you'll notice that we are fully framed. We have a roof on the building, which is great because now we can start work on the interior of the building. And probably for the next 6 months, you're not going to see much change in the buildings because there's so much activity on the inside.
So what is on the inside? What can you tell the listener the general makeup of these buildings?
So the general makeup of these buildings is a very typical mixed-use design that we like to employ. So on the ground floor is what we call podium construction. So it's made out of steel and concrete, and that allows us to have larger spans and bigger space and open area, which allows for commercial, office, food and beverage, just kind of more open spaces that need more open area. As you go up to the next 4 floors, it's going to be a stick construction where we have the residential units. In the residential units, it's pretty typical to most of our projects. We like to have quartz countertops. We like to have a quartz backsplash, thin shaker cabinets, usually a 2-tone. Bathrooms will have a marble surround in the bathroom. So we try to offer a little more in our finishes. If you're familiar with the Orpheum project, you'll know that.
And the makeup, as you said, the 2 buildings, the larger buildings are mixed-use buildings, and there's some commercial more towards the front, the River Street side, with the courtyard sort of bookending the 2 primary commercial spaces, correct?
Sure, yes. So in what we're calling Building C, which I believe is going to be 9 River Street. That's where our co-work office is going to be. So we have a 5,000 co-work office facility to allow people to not only live, but also work in that area. It'll have boardrooms, workstation, copiers, coffee, cafe, kitchens. And right adjacent to that, actually connected, we're going to connect the 2 spaces, which then leads you to the plaza, is going to be Evan Hennessey's Topolino restaurant, which, if all goes well, he'll be opening at the same time as the apartment buildings. As you then go on the other bookend, which is Building D or 31 River Street, we have another 3,000 to 4,000 square feet of commercial space, which we hope to also fill with food and beverage, maybe a coffee user or a small market, some other amenity that we think will be great for the neighborhood, the residents, people visiting the park. Building D will have also a roof deck for the residents, which has finally started to be framed out, and you can go up there now and really see the river. It's located right at the bend in the river, so you almost get this 280 view of the river and the city in the background. So it's pretty spectacular.
That's great. I love that the layout of the buildings and the siting of the buildings really take advantage of the view sheds and the proximity to downtown. It really gives it that overall feel of being an extension of downtown. It's just another neighborhood.
I mean, that was the overall intent of this design, and working with Quiddick over the last 4 years was to really make it feel like it's been in this neighborhood for a while, forever.
The Waterfront District's coming alive. So on the return portion of River Street, you have the townhouse structures that you're building, and that's collectively known as Building E. But there's 3 pods, correct?
Correct, yes. We have a 3 townhouse pod, a 9 townhouse pod, and an 11 townhouse pod. So 23 overall townhouses, which are walk-up townhouses. They have everyone has a parking garage on the ground floor, which then leads to 3 separate stories, 3 bedrooms. They'll have fireplaces. They'll have an upgraded finished package, which will be a little higher end than the apartments. Yeah, we're very excited about offering this townhouse product in the city. We think it's potentially a missing product that we will get a lot of interest.
And the garages, those are entry from the rear, so they don't impact the visual of driving down River Street, correct?
Correct. Yes, the River Street will be free of the garages and the parking. I was just actually walking down the River Street this morning, and it was really neat to feel like you were walking through a neighborhood there. I mean, it just felt like any neighborhood anywhere else. You come down the hill, and you all of a sudden, the beautiful river is there. You can see it flowing by. The park is there. So it's nice to see our vision coming alive.
All right, we'll talk more to Jamie about this later, but it's interesting. I was recently down there, and you're right. Now the park, you can actually have some definition to it with the sidewalks in and some of the planting starting. There's really it's just not a piece of land. There's actually some definition.
Absolutely. They did a great job of kind of cutting the invasive plants and growth along the river, but leaving these beautiful specimen trees. Yeah. So now you can see the river while also having that shade cover of the trees, and you can really start to appreciate the river, which you may not have known was there, less than a year ago.
You're going to continue through the summer, finishing up the spaces. As you said earlier, the exterior is the exterior for the time being. Certainly there are exterior finishes that will be put on later, but you're going to transition more into the internal workings. Is that my understanding?
That's correct. Yeah. So one big milestone is to get the building what we call weather tight. And that's going to be the roof and that beautiful 3M wrap that you see out there, which is the vapor barrier, which I assure you is not the final siding color. That allows us to do all the interior rough work. So we're pulling wires, we're pulling plumbing, pulling ductwork and HVAC. That then goes through a long process with the city for inspections. We're able to then start drywall after that. So once the drywall starts, the gypcrete starts, we slowly get into the finishes on the inside. So, again, not much on the outside, but the inside, a flurry of activity. I did notice that the masons had started work, which is great. So you'll start to see you've already seen the CMU go up for the garages, but also you'll start to see the brick and the precast start to take shape. So that'll slowly move up the front of the building. And that all works perfectly with the city, and I'm sure Jamie will talk about it, in us getting off the streets. We want to get all the masons and the siders off the streets so that the city and Northeast Earth can come in and do their finishing touches on the sidewalks, right. The street trees, the lighting, and then all of a sudden, all this work takes shape in a matter of months.
So you alluded to something that I wanted to touch on. I don't think people realize how many hands are touching the project. You must have 100 to 200 folks through the various contractors on the site.
Yeah, at this point, I would say the headcount's probably touching 150 to 175 for sure.
In my mind, that's actually the best part about being beyond winter is we were getting a little tight on where people could park, where vehicles could go. Hopefully that frees up a little as we enter spring, summer.
Yes, I think a lot of lots probably had snow piles in them, and that is fortunately melted. So a little more parking is optional. But yes, parking is always going to be a struggle with construction, but hopefully we're through that portion of it and we're just out there making progress and hopefully getting this thing finished by the end of the year.
So as you're moving forward with C, D, and E, I know at some point you need to start thinking about F and long-term A and B. How is that going?
It's going well. We have already considered starting building F, hopefully sometime this year. Now that product is currently a condominium building, so it's a for sale product. We have had a whole bunch of people reach out already just for the apartments. Yep. When are you going to be done? When can we move in? We're so excited. Do you have anything we can buy? And that do you have anything you can buy question has come up over and over. So we're listening to the prospective tenants and the renters and the buyers, and we want to expedite building F and push it forward. So hopefully we can be delivering it, within 12 to 14 months of starting.
Is that realistically a time frame for building a structure like that, 12 to 14 months?
Yeah, it's a smaller footprint. So if you consider building C and D just on the scale of C and D, 197 units being 19 to 20 months, building 43 units, smaller for half the footprint seems like a little bit of an easier process, but.
And then A and B will probably fill in the middle of between 14 and 20 months because they're approximately mid-sized compared to the two.
Yeah, I would say if we would probably do both at the same time just because they share parking, they share egress and ingress. And so my guess would be a little bit of a shorter duration, but similar to C and D, so somewhere between 18 and 20 months.
And if I recall, the scope of the project has an outside length of about 2030, being another 5 years total. Doesn't mean it will take that long, but obviously the market will help dictate what that time frame is. Is that still what you're thinking, to see where the market takes you and then
That's correct.
get there by the closing date we have? But
Yeah, I think we always considered these dates as outside dates, it's contemplating something turmoil or something could happen that just delays us a little bit. Our intent was always to build as the market needs or garners. And so far, we continue to see a strong multifamily market, strong rental market, but also the Seacoast has started to get a lot more people moving up here or wanting to sell their larger homes and downsize a little bit, but also own. And so we continue to see that market drive. We're going to continue to build for that and hopefully accommodate that need.
So you've already noted that you've got interest, and I hear it a lot. I want to make sure that we give an opportunity for people that are interested in learning more or following along or getting in the pipeline for your wait list, that we give that website or any other materials. Where would someone go? How would they learn more?
Sure. So the official name of this area is the Waterfront District. We really leaned into the legacy of the site as everyone has known it for the last couple of decades. So to get more information or to at least sign up to hear more information, please visit our current website, which is waterfrontdistrictdover.com.
Great. And I assume you'll be updating that as you get closer to actually knowing when you might have openings and things like that, still in flux as you're under construction.
Exactly right. Yes, we will be updating it monthly, and we will be creating a lead list and emailing that lead list on a biweekly to monthly basis to keep them apprised of construction schedule, progress, potential model units, site tours, everything else as we get a little closer to completion.
Great. Anything else the listener should know before we turn it over to Jamie to learn more about the public improvements?
We're very excited to be seeing the end in sight and hopefully getting this building open within the next 5 to 6 months. I know the park is shortly after. I'm sure Jamie can talk more on that, but I think his goal is to have the park open to the public in the spring of 2026. So all willing and all goes well, I hope to be having a takeout sandwich from Topolino in that park next summer.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you coming in and talking with us today, and we look forward to a connection maybe later in the year as you are announcing the grand openings.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great day. Now that Rob's walked us through what's going on the private side, we're going to turn to Jamie Stevens, the city's project manager, for an update on the public elements. Jamie, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So as Rob was discussing, we've got in the center of the project, really, a couple mixed-use buildings and his townhouses that his crew is underway on. And they're sort of building in the middle of what your crew is working on, which is the roadway, the utilities, and the park. Now, last time you were in, we were talking about the road, the base pavement down, and all of the underground utilities being down. Does that mean you've had Northeast focused on the park and the shoreline and those elements?
So yeah, we made significant advancements in the park areas with the subgrading and preparation of sidewalks. In fact, we've begun pouring sidewalks around the Riverwalk area, which will then become the walking park for the general public. In the next week or so, we expect granite curbing crews to mobilize on the Payne Street area and begin the process of wrapping up the Payne Street construction with the sidewalks and curbing associated with that.
One of the things that is most dramatic to me is, and you and I had talked about this when it was initially done, the public might not realize it because if you weren't down there much pre-construction and you go down there now, it's night and day. But the elevation change, the ability to account for storms, sea level rise, and climate adaptation, when you're on the area of where the pavilion building is going to be and where the park plaza is going to be, you are at the original elevation of the lot, essentially. When you're on the road, you're about 8 feet taller or higher up, the elevation change. That's pretty amazing to hear about.
Anywhere between 8 and 10 feet, actually, on the general roadway, which has now become River Street. The elevation change is significant. I oftentimes get visitors down there, and they realize the massive change, and they make a point to talk about it.
When you're on Kachiko Street across the river and you look back and you see the retaining wall that was built to hold up the road, and then you see the pavilion, which the foundation, when you're on River Street, it looks that great, and it will be, the new facility will be. But then when you're on the riverside, you see that the grand staircase and how much higher up that pavilion will be. It's pretty dramatic.
I agreed, yeah. I certainly agree.
In conjunction with the pavilion, the park will have a variety of elements. You mentioned the sidewalk along the river. It looks like there's granite stairs that go down to the river. Is that what I'm seeing?
In a couple of locations, there are granite stairways in the park area, in what we'll call the gateway area immediately as you get over the Macomb Bridge to your left. There are several sets of steps that are designed to get you from up by the roadway on the roadway sidewalk down to that more urban Riverwalk, we'll call it a Riverwalk sidewalk, and that's what they're there for. They're there to transition you off what would be the street to down into the park for the walking elements that will exist upon completion of the project.
So as I move into the park, I get to the plaza, but before the plaza is an overlook. Is that what I'm seeing? It looks like sort of a bump out into the river.
So yeah, if you could picture in between Rob's two larger buildings, which are kind of like the shock and awe, if you will, of the project right now, there's a grand, we'll call it a patio or a courtyard. Directly across from that, and there's a raised crosswalk and a significant showpiece, if you will, which is it's called an overlook. It gets you up high to be able to see the waterway. There'll be a flagpole there. There'll be a granite treatment in the middle of it. It's meant to attract you to view the water, to connect you with the water.
So then, as we continue south, as we sort of get to a fork in the road, one way will lead directly towards the shoreline, and there'll be some swing benches and some other elements there, and the other is more closer to the road, and that's what leads you to the pavilion, correct?
That's correct, yeah. The pavilion is an open air space, basically gathering place for the general public to, again, gather, experience the water, experience civic activities, maybe have a cup of coffee, and relate to friends and family and whatnot.
Nice. As we continue to move through the park, we get to the lawn area. And the lawn area is kind of a transition point, right? We move from concrete and pavers to more of a stone dust and natural elements.
Yeah, the connection there again is to bring the general public down away from the roadway or the urban feel into more of a rural feel with a stone dust pathway versus a concrete pathway. Connect you with some natural elements, some trees that were revitalized, pruned, and so forth to promote more positive growth. And those pathways are designed to get you down away from the hustle and bustle of the traffic and the development, and down into more of a secluded, nature-esque kind of a experience. I
like to say that one of the nice aspects of this project, I'm being slightly facetious, is that it has provided us plenty of opportunities for problem solving. And whether it be discovering a 15-foot piece of foundation in the soils 10 feet down, or whether it be finding out that materials that we thought we were going to use really won't work, or my favorite one right now is you calling me one day and saying, so remember the bulkhead, the sheet pile bulkhead that was put in 2007? Well, the sheet piles are not coming up in one piece as they're supposed to. They're coming up in fragmented pieces that there's some corrosion. I'll let you reinforce it, but what we're doing, what we've told Quiddick about and what we're processing is you had done some research as to what was there before. The bulkhead was put in 2007 by the Army Corps as part of the dredging process, but you found that there was a granite wall previously, maybe not where the bulkhead exactly is, but really along where the shoreline continues up and down from the bulkhead.
Yeah, through some research and contact with local, if you will, historians or residents, I was able to uncover historic photographs, which provided evidence. We then test pitted behind the bulkhead area in that general vicinity, and we were able to identify what we believed to be the existing remnants of what would have been a granite wall. So we've employed Horsley Witten to come up with an amended plan on how we're going to move forward in a more permanent manner. And we believe mirroring what we've done in a significant portion of the park is the best and longest solution to the unforeseen problem.
So the good thing for the user at the end of the day will be is they're walking along that area, or if they're across the river, you'll note the really amazingly, I don't want to say beautiful, but it is beautiful in some ways, granite toe wall that Northeast Earth has installed. And then the living shoreline component that ties into that, that's going to carry through the full length, as opposed to having that feature then interrupted by 20-year-old sheet piles that at some point we're going to fail no matter what. This gives us the opportunity to really carry that aesthetic the whole route.
It does, and I'll mirror some of the things you just mentioned, Chris. The gentleman that does the stonework is extremely talented. Anyone that views it from the other side of the river, the Cocheco Street side of the river, would also identify that. And so we talked about the transition from the pavilion area into the more rural area. Well, this granite wall will now hopefully be constructed to the limit of the bulkhead, where that transitions into the living shoreline elements, and then those more rural pathways that are meant to be rustic and connect the general user with more of a nature-esque type feel.
As you continue around River Street, that rural portion of the park sort of blends into McGlarus Park at some point, and there'll be a pathway connecting the two. That brings us back to Seaport Way, and then we're back to the starting point. Are there other areas of public improvement that in the short term the public should know about?
So like you mentioned, the rural pathway is going to be it's designed to transition into a union with McGlarus Park. Also, the Seaport Way project is in design to go out the top of Seaport Way and eventually connect back in with what is known to be Town Drive at the moment, which then connects to Henry Law.
And ultimately, Payne Street, this project really is only improving half of Payne Street, and then the Payne Street Henry Law project will pick that up in the next phase to move forward.
That's correct, Chris. There is a transition point on Northeast Earth's work on Payne Street, which transitions into the larger scale project of the Henry Law reconstruction and park revitalization. There's some subsurface drainage treatment elements that are going in to help us better meet discharge permits. And there's a transition point about halfway, and then the Henry Law reconstruction and revitalization would take over. Eventually, it'll be all in unison once the completion of that work is done.
So as we wrap up here, we're about 2 years in of a 3-year project. So in the grand scheme, I like to say we're on time. You would probably cringe at that because you're more in the details of where we're at from a timeline standpoint. But I'm still looking forward to Memorial Day 2026 and hopefully having the park ready to go and having some sort of removal of the chain link fence, and the park is just part of the natural flavor of the city.
I'll confess, Chris, as you stated earlier, some of the unforeseen discoveries we had early on, and I believe your description of them was somewhat modest. Despite all the unforeseen things, we're now up and out of the ground, and the unforeseen things are less and less likely to happen. So where I'm transitioning here is we are steadily picking up momentum as far as the finish line goes. We don't like to ever talk timelines in construction, but we are on pace to finish in the correct time, despite all the obstacles we faced early on.
Good. I think that's a credit to your oversight of the project and Northeast Earth's commitment to being a partner in getting this done. I got to think that they, as well as the private developer, have other things they want to be working on, other projects at some point. Not everyone wants to set up camp and live in the River Street, the new Waterfront district forever. But I appreciate the diligence you put in on this project and the commitment you've made to bring it home at the highest quality you can provide.
It's definitely been a challenge, and I'm worthy of facing many challenges, and I accept that.
Great.
So
great. Thanks for coming in, and we'll talk with you maybe at the end of the year.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for listening to the Dover Download this week. If you like what you heard, subscribe through your favorite podcast aggregator. And if you have something you want to hear a topic on, let us know. Finally, this is just one of the many ways we share information about the city of Dover. You can subscribe to the Dover Downloads email newsletter every week or other newsletters that we have by going to the City of Dover homepage, www.dover.nh.gov. Have a great week.